What's going on, guys? JSGC here, and we are here for another request video. So if you've got any video requests for me to do, make sure you leave that in the comments below or tweet me Twitter in the description, and I'll see what I can do. We've got some free slots for some videos, so just let me know and we'll see what I can do. So last week I was requested to do a video with my Manchester City Dream 11 kind of realistic players. This time I wanted to do a video looking at my favourite players that I've seen play for Manchester City, whether it be for entertainment purposes, whether it be for skill, whether it be for how well they did for Manchester City, or how much simply I like them. So it's basically just my opinions, but you're free to put you in the comments below what your best team is or your favourite team is for Manchester City. I'm doing this since I started supporting Manchester City. That was in 2002, a long time ago. So in the comments below, to leave your team and then leave how long you have been supporting Manchester City from there. So there might be some players, if you started recently supporting Manchester City, that you may never heard of or you might not know much about. So I'm going to go through my 11 and I'll explain that to you, and I'll put some subs and some honourable mentions in there. Should be a nice, fun, entertaining video in my opinion. So I'm going to pop up my favourite Manchester City 11 since I started supporting them right now. And in goal, I've gone for prime Joe Hart. Now, in his prime for Manchester City, absolutely fantastic. You remember, he played a season for Manchester City. Then he ended up going out on loan to Birmingham City. Then he came back to Manchester City. He had competition with Shay Given there. He was given the nod against Tottenham, and Joe Hart never looked back since. Did fantastic in that game, and for 2, 3, 4 seasons for Manchester City was just a fantastic goalkeeper. Saw him become England's #1, and he's one of my all-time favourite goalkeepers. Has a bit of a weakness at near posts and getting beat from range, particularly when it's heading towards his post too. However, it's hard to ignore performances that he played in such big Manchester City games for us. I mean, I'm thinking the Champions League semi-final when we drew 0-0 with Real Madrid, keeping out Real Madrid's attack. It was sublime in that. He saved some important penalties for Manchester City too. And let's not forget in the time when, in the last moments, he went forward to try and score a goal, came back, ended up running the length of the pitch and punching the ball on his line and putting it wide of the post. Yeah, really loved our time with Joe Hart there, and he's one of my all-time favourite goalkeepers, so I've put him in there. I thought Shay Given and Edison, unlucky to miss out, but Edison's not been with us that long, to be fair, for him to make it into my 11. I'm sure in a couple of seasons he will. Now, at right back, I was women and R in here for who I'd go for. I wanted to go with Zabaleta because I think Zabaleta is one of my all-time favourite players ever to wear the Manchester City shirt. He wore his heart on his sleeve. I will explain Zabaleta because he's on my substitute bench, but I'm going to explain Kyle Walker here first. Kyle Walker has taken Manchester City's right-back situation to a new level. He's one of the best right-backs in the Premier League, if not even in the world. He's just such a phenomenal player. He's been ace for England, he's been ace for Tottenham, he's been ace for Manchester City. He's just oozes class. He's just a brilliant right back for Manchester City, and he's a position at this moment in time that I just don't worry about because I think he's one of the best players in the world, and I love watching Kyle Walker week in week out play for Manchester City, and I'm happy that he's representing us. I think he's one of the best right backs we've ever seen. I think Zabaleta had a peak season. I think it was back in 2013 time around there where he started, when Zabaleta in my opinion was one of the best players at the right back position. We all knew what Zabaleta was capable of. I just think Kyle Walker is better. You are free to disagree with that, of course, leave in the comments below. I just feel like in terms of pound for pound position right backs, I'd rather have Kyle Walker. He's quicker, he's fitter, and just all round gameplay, better passer of the ball, he's just a better player. Not that I don't love Zabaleta, I do. We all love Pablo. Now, centre backs was a tricky one for me. I went for Vincent Kompany, obviously, for his loyalty to Manchester City. He's doing his 10th season at Manchester City. He deserves his testimonial next summer, and I hope everyone turns out for that. Vincent Kompany, I don't think needs any explanation there. He's had so many injury crises with Manchester City. He's come back time after time after time after time. He's wore his heart on his sleeve, basically. He's just put everything into Manchester City, and he just lives and breathes blue. He's just a brilliant player. He bleeds blue, for God's sake. He's just a brilliant player, and he deserves not only to be on my team and my favourite Manchester City 11, he deserves to be captain of that team too. Captain, fantastic. Now, the other centre-back I was going for, I was at and Arin. I've gone for Richard Dunn because Richard Dunn had a lot of loyalty to Manchester City. I'm not sure if everyone's heard of Richard Dunn. Famous for scoring quite a few own goals for Manchester City, but the partnership him and Sylvain Distin built up in the build-up to Manchester City being taken over. So from that time in 2002, 2003, when I started supporting him, right through to that build-up into 2008, 2009 when we got took over, pretty much Richard Dunne and Sylvain Distin were irreplaceable. They were just fantastic for Manchester City. Two great servants for Manchester City, two fabulous players, and I won't change either of them for the world. I've just gone for Richard Dunne, just purely because of I felt like he didn't put more into it. He's just more of a favourite than Sylvain Distin. He's like, Richard Dunne's there and Sylvain Distin is just below him there. That's why I've gone for Richard Dunne ahead of him. I know Richard Dunne tends to play on the right side of centre back and Distin on the left, so it makes sense to have Distin there, but they are two of my favourite Manchester City players. Now for left back, I didn't know who to go for. I feel like if we have 2 or 3 seasons out of Mendy, then in terms of Mendy, he will obviously be the best left back Man City's ever had. I'm looking towards other players. I put not Danny Mills. No, definitely not. But I'm looking at Clichy or Kolarov. I've gone for Kolarov just purely because I love the entertainment purpose of Kolarov. When he was doing things for City TV, he was absolutely brilliant. He just seemed like such a genuine, sound guy to have around the team. And he did quite a few years at Manchester City too. I don't think he's the most skillful. I don't think he's the greatest left back ever. He's not the quickest at all. He had a great free kick on him, and it was always entertaining to watch him. He was a very frustrating player. But I've not really got any other options from when I've been supporting Manchester City. So if anyone in the comments can help me out with a left back, like I said, Mendy, but he's not been here long enough for me to put him on there. He's got the potential, Mendy, though, to go that further place. Clichy was also another solid player, but I always preferred Kolarov. That's just my opinion. That's mainly when I was attacking, I preferred Kolarov. When defending, I did prefer Clichy. So yeah, I was torn on that one. Now in the midfield, I've gone for De Jong, De Bruyne, and David Silva. I'll first explain Nigel De Jong. Now I would have Yaya Toure here, however, it hurt a lot the way he left Manchester City, the comments that he made. I mean, he's been a great player, it's hard to ignore that. So I put Yaya Toure on my substitute bench. However, everything got a little bit bitter, and as sad as I was to see Yaya Toure leave, I felt like it was the right time for him to leave. He owes Manchester City nothing. I'm just not too happy with how the situation was handled, so I put him on the substitute bench. Obviously be a starter if he wasn't, because he scored so many important goals. I put Nigel De Jong on there because I thought he was a great interceptor of the ball. He was a great ball-winning midfielder, and there's not really been much out there for him since. I mean, the way Man City play, we don't really need a ball-winning midfielder anymore. We need players that can pass the ball, move the ball forward, and can defend. Nigel De Jong offered something else. I mean, he was just a great slide tackler. It was great when he scored his first goal for Manchester City. It took him forever. Was it against West Ham in that long-range goal? It was a brilliant goal from Nigel De Jong, and I always enjoyed watching him represent Manchester City. And in terms of ball-winning midfielders, I can't name a better one. I thought he was fantastic for that one. It was close call between him and Yaya Toure, to be fair, in that position. Like I said, if Yaya Toure hadn't left so bitterly, Yaya Toure would 100% be in there, but he did. And so he's down on my pecking list, and that's why. Now I've gone for De Bruyne and David Silva. I don't feel like this needs too much of an explanation. Kevin De Bruyne, in my opinion, in 2 or 3 seasons' time, is going to probably be one of, if not the best Manchester City player, even of all time. He just oozes class. He's just world class. He's brilliant. He has to be in my team. And David Silva's in the same bracket. He's just a brilliant player for Manchester City. Great pass of the ball. I can't name a better central midfielder for us at all. I can't name even in the world right now. I'm thinking, you think of Xavi, you think of Iniesta, then you think, who else can I think of? And you think of, in that style of play, David Silva has to be right up there. He's one of the best players to ever grace the Premier League, and I'm delighted that he represented Manchester City, and he is more than welcome on my favourite 11 of Manchester City. Now, on the wings, it was a difficult one, this one, because I've got some very good players that I really did like at Manchester City. Now, I've gone for Shaun Wright-Philips because I got bored of putting a load of players in from the era of the last 4 or 5 years. I wanted to go something different, so I went Shaun Wright-Philips. He was a player that Manchester City at the time sold for a record transfer, £21 million to Chelsea. Came back to Manchester City, scored a lot of beautiful goals. He helped in beating Manchester United back when our aim for the season was to beat Manchester United and stay up. He was influential in that. He was a brilliant player, very quick, very agile. We managed to get him a few England caps as well. And everyone liked Shaun Wright-Philips. I really loved SWP when representing Manchester City, so I put him in there. I feel like in a couple of seasons Sterling will probably overtake him if he stays at Manchester City. But yeah, I did like Wright-Philips. Go for Leroy Sané on the left. I wanted to go for Craig Bellamy, but I put 2 and 2 together, and I thought, Leroy Sané is a lot better than what Craig Bellamy was. But Craig Bellamy was one of my favourite players at Manchester City, particularly if you remember during that 4-3 game. He was brilliant in that 4-3 loss at Old Trafford. He had a very good season. He helped beat Chelsea during that Wayne Bridge and John Terry little thing that happened as well. But I went for Leroy Sané just purely because Leroy Sané, I feel like, again, like Kevin De Bruyne, give him 2 or 3 seasons, he'll be one of the best wingers in the world. And to be honest, Leroy Sané, I've never seen a player like him. He's very skillful, very quick, can make things happen. When things aren't happening for him, it's not happening, but when things are happening, he is a delight to watch. He can go in my 11. I've gone for Aguero. I don't want to explain why Sergio Aguero is in there. Aguero belongs in every single Manchester City favourite 11 in my opinion, and if you haven't, you need to give your head a wobble. Now I'll just explain my substitute bench quickly. I've gone for Shay Given because I did like Shay Given when he was at Manchester City. Like I said, Edison in a couple of seasons will probably be overtaken getting on that list. I've gone for John Stones. Again, he's like another player that I feel like can become a cult legend at Manchester City. Pablo Zabaleta's already that. He's a brilliant player. Gareth Barry, again, a solid player for Manchester City. Loved having Gareth Barry at Manchester City. Gone for Ali Benarbia. Not many people might not have heard of Ali Benarbia, but he was very good, particularly when I first started supporting Manchester City during the 01-02 season when we was in the old Division 1 when we got promoted. One of my favourite players, loved hearing his name, and big Ali Benarbia, just a brilliant player for Manchester City, and so he can go on my substitute bench. He was my favourite player when I was growing up watching Manchester City, so yeah, that's why he's on there. Yaya Toure is on there, and obviously Shaun Goat is in the same bracket as Ali Benarbia. I love watching Shaun Goat too. A couple of my favourite players right there. Now, added note here, I've gone first up with Mancini's being my favourite manager for Manchester City. Pep Guardiola, who does 2 or 3 more seasons at Man City, I'm sure he'll overtake, but Bobby Mank at the moment is still my favourite manager at Manchester City. I mean, he won us our first trophy in years and years and years. He won us our first Premier League in years and years and years. And so, yeah, I just loved having Roberto Mancini here. Do you remember all that stick you used to get because I haven't won a trophy since 1976? Remember that banner at Manchester United at Old Trafford? Ah, man. I had to grow up at school with a load of Manchester United fans like that. Wasn't good. So, yeah, Bobby Mank, cult hero to me. Not Stuart Pearce. I made a note of that one. I remember scoring 9 goals at home all season. Got a big result beating Liverpool at home, I think, in that season. Then went and beat Newcastle and Middlesbrough away to end up staying up. The good old days, the good old days. Now, some honourable mentions for some players here. Now I've gone for Joey Barton. I like Joey Barton. I just didn't like what he represented and what he did off the field, particularly that incident with Usman Darboe. Remember the cigar in his eye? It was just a pretty dickhead thing to do, really. But I did like Joey Barton up to that point, and so I thought I'd give him an honourable mention because growing up watching Manchester City, it's hard to ignore in the central midfield that we did have Barton there. Also Nicolas Anelka, a player that was famed for, well, kind of being a mercenary, but he always seemed to do well with Manchester City, and I really enjoyed watching him being up front for Manchester City. I also liked players like Julian Lescott, Mika Richards, Antoine Sobieski, and Stephen Ireland, some of my favourite players too. Remember that season Michael Johnson had too, where he just popped up out of nowhere, then ended up fading as quickly as he came. It's hard to ignore other players like Balotelli, Dzeko, and Tevez too, but no room on my favourite 11 for them, but there are some honourable mentions. I'm sorry I've missed an abundance of players, so just let me know in the comments below who I've missed. But yeah, something different. It's the international break. It's the last irregular video of the international break before we head into the bits and bobs of the news and previews and analysis and things like that. So make sure that you stay tuned, make sure that you subscribe, put your push notifications on. We're so close to 1,500 subscribers now, so hello to my new subscribers, nice to have you on board. Thank you for subscribing. Make sure you stay subscribed, make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already. That'd be ace. Make sure you leave a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Social media links in the description below, along with my email if you want to hit me up with any business enquiries. Leave links up to my second channel, Jason Says Low Travel Man, and my brother's partner channel, Mixed doing Mixology Drinks. You can go check them out, like and subscribe over there, and also don't forget to like and subscribe over here. Don't forget to share the video, help my channel grow, and I'll see you all again very soon for the next Manchester City video. I hope you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed recording this, and I'll enjoy editing it, so I'll see you all again soon for the next Manchester City video. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace. Ciao for now.